It's your friendly math tutor, Miss C here, and today we are writing and solving a system of equation from a word problem. So let's get started writing the equations and then solving them. So we have a soccer team went to McDonald's after a match and bought quarter pounders with cheese and 6-piece chicken nuggets for the team. They bought 27 of these items in total. Each quarter pounder with cheese costs $6.39, and each order of chicken nuggets costs $9.39. The team spent a total of $199.53. How many of each item did the soccer team buy? So, the first thing I like to do when I'm writing equations is I like to highlight the big pieces of information. So I'm noticing we have two different types of items that the team bought. So we have quarter pounders with cheese and we have 6-piece chicken nuggets. So those are our two variables essentially for our equation. We know that in combination they bought 27 of these. Okay? We know that the quarter pounder costs $6.39. We know that the nuggets costs $9.39, and we know the total spending. So if I were to think through this, and then I'm asking how many of each item did the soccer team buy? So I'm trying to figure out how many quarter pounders were bought and how many chicken nuggets were bought. So I've got two things. I have the number of what's bought and I have the money. And so our two equations are going to fall into this category. So our first step is identify our variables. So you could use X and Y. I like to sometimes, when I have word problems, use the letters that represent them. So these are my quarter pounders. I'm going to let be variable Q. And I'm going to say C is chicken nuggets. Okay. And specifically, these are number of quarter pounders and number of chicken nuggets, right? Because we're looking at how many of each item. Okay, so let's go ahead and write our equation. The first equation I'm going to do is I'm going to call this my number of items equation. So we know they bought some number of quarter pounders. We're going to let that be Q. And we know that they bought some number of chicken nuggets. So that combination of however many of each has to equal the 27 items they bought. Okay, so that's my first equation. My second equation is about the money spent. So we know that each quarter pounder costs $6.39. So, however many quarter pounders they bought gets multiplied by $6.39. And that tells us the total cost of all the quarter pounders bought. And we do the same thing with the chicken nuggets. Okay, each 6-pack of chicken nuggets costs $9.39. When you multiply that by the total bought, it tells you how much the chicken nuggets cost. And we know that in total, this team spent $199.53 just on these two items. This doesn't include fries, it doesn't include McFlurries, it doesn't include anything else. Okay, so now we are ready to solve because this is our system of equations. So you can solve in any way that you want. You could do elimination, you could do substitution. I would not recommend graphing this because of the decimal. So McDonald's, I was unaware, has a lot of decimal placed prices like 39 cents. Makes it hard to graph and get accurate solutions. So I would recommend elimination or substitution. I am going to show you substitution because I think that that's easier when you have a lot of decimals like this. So I am going to solve this equation for the letter Q. And you could solve it for C. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to just walk you through how I would do that. There's no wrong way to do this here. If you solve for C, that's absolutely correct too. But when I solve for Q, I get Q equals 27 minus C. And when I say I'm solving for it, it means I'm just getting Q by itself. So now that I have Q, everywhere I see Q in this equation, I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this so you can see. So everywhere I see Q, I'm plugging in 27 minus C, and I'm plugging it in parentheses because both 27 and C are getting multiplied by $6.39. So don't forget your parentheses. And then I'm just writing the rest of the equation. So the only part of this equation that I've changed, so I started with this equation right here. The only part I've changed is where I substituted in for the letter Q. All right, so let's go ahead and we are going to solve this equation using the order of operations. The first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify this part that I just substituted in, because there is multiplication and division there that I can't really do anything else until I deal with. So $6.39 times 27 is 172.53 plus $6.39. So that is this part of the 639 being multiplied by that binomial. And now I'm writing the rest of my equation out without any changes. Okay, and now I'm gonna combine my like terms on this side, right? So in case you're wondering, I'm following PEMDAS, moving from P to S, or the order of operations. There's no parentheses that I could simplify. There were no exponents. I moved to multiplication, which is what distribution is. And now I'm moving to addition and subtraction by combining like terms. So this gives me 172.53. When I combine $6.39, oops, and I actually see that I just made an error. So let me go back. This should be minus this. When I combine negative $6.39 plus $9.39, I end up with 3C equals 199.53. Okay, now I can't simplify anything else on the left or the right side, so I'm going to start doing PEMDAS backwards because I'm going to move stuff across my equation. So anything that I can move addition and subtraction wise, I have this, because my goal is to get the C by itself on its own side. So there we go. I have 3C here. And when I do that, I get 27. Who knew we were going to end up with such a nice round number? Well, I did, because you can only buy whole. You can only buy a whole hamburger or a whole set of chicken nuggets. You don't get to buy part of them at McDonald's. So, okay. So when I solve for C, I know that I end up with 9. So that means that 9 boxes of chicken nuggets were bought. Okay. And now I'm actually going to come back up here, and this equation right here, Q equals 27 minus C, that is what I'm going to use to solve. I'm just rewriting that down here. That's what I'm going to use to find letter Q, because Q is already isolated on its own side. So everywhere I see C, I'm going to be plugging in 9, because that's what C equals. So Q equals 27 minus, here we go, we're plugging in 9 right there. 27 minus 9 is 18. So Q equals 18. So 18 quarter pounders with cheese were purchased. Okay. So those are my two answers. We have 18 quarter pounders with cheese, 9 chicken nuggets. If I plugged 18 and 9 back into both of our initial equations, we should get exactly what they equal, which we do. All right, that is how you write and solve simultaneous or systems of equations from a word problem. Make sure to subscribe for more videos. Till next time.